All right, I'm testing out some hotkeys on OBS to see if I can easily switch to my coding screen or not. Is that working? Looks like it's working. Just give me a second. I'm just messing with some settings to see how it works. Cool. All right, so I don't know if there's anyone in the stream, but if there is, the plan is we are going to basically just kind of talk about any JavaScript questions you might have. So if you want to learn more about JavaScript or you're stuck on something, feel free to ask a question and we can try to answer it. All right, all right, all right. All right, let's see if I go to my code editor, if you all can see this. What's up, Diego Cami? So hopefully people are joining in, and if you have any questions about like what you want to ask me, or if you want to talk about anything, feel free to ask, or I could just kind of teach you some JavaScript concepts if you want to learn some about JavaScript. And by the way, is my code showing right now? No, I haven't really played with Remix yet. I don't really know if it's good. I mean, I'm sure it's fine. Kind of seems like it's really kind of similar to Next.js, so I wouldn't see any issue with using it. I guess I'm curious if anyone else on this stream has actually tried out Remix and if it actually works pretty well. I really don't know much about it, so I don't even know if it's just like a front end only thing or if it's kind of like a full stack framework for building out applications, but seems like it has a lot of performance and built-in routing and other optimizations. So I mean, it's probably good. And I know it's like created by Kent C. Dodds, I think his name is. So I'm assuming it's good as well. But yeah, I haven't really played with it. What's up, Hoke? Hoki? Makwad? Don't know if I said your name right, but yeah, so does anyone have any things they want help with or any JavaScript questions? I'll probably have the stream going for like an hour or so, depending on if anyone asks questions. If not, my computer's kind of slow, so it's hard to like actually code on anything for real when I'm streaming. I can kind of look up some other concepts. Seems like every blog post talks about closures being important, but it's like I've never actually really used closures that much on a real like on my day job. You might use it like once or twice, but everyone talks about how it's like really important to know. It's like not really. Maybe we can just build something small. All right, does anyone have anything that you want to just try to like we could build together on this live stream? I'm taking any suggestions, as long as it's kind of simple. Kind of did this last live stream I was on where we just built random things in HTML. What's up, Palamzi? Let's see. At this moment, I'm building a to-do app where I have also participants, which I can add to the to-dos. I need an HTML object to write the participant name from the object. I think it is written. Fast and I can read them with JS, right? And important is a multiple choice. Let me try to break down what you're asking. What's a participant? So you have like a to-do list application and you're trying to attach different users to a single to-do list item or something? So I need an HTML object to write the participant names from the object. I think it is written. I'm not too sure what you're asking, but yeah, I'm assuming you could read whatever you need to do. If it's an HTML element, you can use JavaScript to read from it. So I think yes, to answer your question, you can read them with JavaScript. Although I'm not fully understanding what your scenario is. So yeah, I mean, you guys kind of guide me what the stream to be, because I don't even have anything planned, so I don't want to just start coding stuff if no one cares to see anything being coded. Or I could just have a conversation, although I don't know what to really talk about. I don't have anything planned. What have I been working on? So I think if you haven't seen my last videos, I've been trying to build out this like Minecraft server hosting system, which has been pretty fun. So I guess I'll kind of advertise that a little bit. So let me go to my GitHub channel or my GitHub page. And if anyone's kind of interested in contributing to an open source project with me, feel free to go to this URL. Let me go ahead and paste it in the, oops, wrong one. Come on. Go ahead and go here, star this, watch it, feel free to fork it, and then you can also try to start contributing to it. So what this is, if you haven't seen some of my other videos, I'm just trying to build a really simple application where people can come in and like rent a Minecraft server for like $3 per gigabyte. And behind the scenes, that's basically spinning up Docker containers, which is hosting a Minecraft service. And it's a pretty cool project to work on. It's a good learning experiment. And there's like different aspects of the project that you can kind of contribute to. Like if you're only a front-end developer, there's a front-end part to it. Let me go ahead and view the code. So like this is the actual project. We have like a client folder that contains all the React single-page application code. So if you feel more comfortable dealing with front-end code, you can go here and you can start contributing. I'm not really strict about like what you add, other than don't do like huge changes or huge feature additions without getting my approval. But you can come in and like do what you want. Like if you notice that the app is written in create React app and like you decide to refactor in next, I'll probably say no. But if you just want to like add a new page or do something with it, feel free to. There's an API as well. So the API is built with, right now it's built with Prisma, which is basically used for talking to the Postgres database and storing models and whatnot. It's also in Express in Node. So if you want to get more hands-on experience with looking at a larger scale, I mean, this isn't even a large scale app, but a small/medium size application. We have a couple of routes here. All those routes do different things. Let me show you the router. All right, so there's a decent amount of routes here. So it's kind of a small scale project that if you want to get more experience with learning about like how to add on to a open source project, feel free to kind of do that. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be refactored in this code base, a lot of stuff that needs to be added. I can kind of go through, I think someone gave a pull request earlier. Someone's been contributing a lot to this project, so I really appreciate that. Let me zoom out and kind of show that. So you guys can just watch me kind of review this stuff and merge it if you don't have any experience with open source. Let me pin this because I keep opening on accident because this one is my chat. Mate says, very nice of you to do these sessions. Keep up the good work, man. Yep. Thank you so much for joining in. Hopefully I've helped you learn some stuff. Sheldon said, I would like to know how you handle failed promises, like allowing a user to press a button to retry a specific failed promise or a retry all, something like you see in failed downloads versus completed downloads. Yeah, let me make a list of some ideas. Let me finish up kind of explaining this open source project, and then maybe we can do that. So Sheldon asked basically how to retry a failed promise. Well, when you say you want to understand it better from a server point, maybe I'm not fully understanding what you're doing. So like in the UI, you have, let's see, a button. When you click it, it maybe does a post request to a backend and tries to insert some data. And you're saying that if the backend were to fail for some reason, how do you make the front end be able to prompt the user to basically re-click that button or something? Is that what you're saying? Like, how do you catch an exception that comes back from an Axios request on a failed backend endpoint and do something with that? If that's kind of along the same path of what you're asking your question, then let me know. Like, how do you retry a failed Axios post request or something? All right, so one of the pull requests that someone sent to this repo is adding verification for server config. So on this project, there is an actual like page that you can go to, and it has a list of a bunch of different inputs on this Minecraft hosting system. And there's maybe like 20 or 30 different input boxes with just text. And you can type in whatever you want into that text, but I kind of made a task to say, we need to validate the text to make sure that they're not sending over properties that don't really exist. Because you don't want someone to just like accidentally set a wrong value and then it breaks like your entire server. So this is one of those tasks that this contributor has been working on. Let's kind of read through this and see what it's doing. So it looks like he has a server's dir defined now. I don't know where that's defined in the project. So yeah, this is typically the process of like reviewing PRs. Like I see some code that's changed and I'm like, where is this defined? Shouldn't this be a process.env variable somewhere? And then you can click a start a review button. Basically, you kind of add all your comments to like a batched review on GitHub, and then you can finish a review and post it so that the person who made the PR can actually like address your questions and kind of change and do some feedback wherever they need to. But yeah, I'm not seeing where this money sign server's dir is being defined, so kind of concerning. Let's see. Yeah, so here he does process.env.servers dir. So I think he might have just messed up over here and here and here. Let me just go ahead and add here as well to these things. I'll be the annoying pull request reviewer. All right, so start server command. This is like a JavaScript or TypeScript function that you can use to basically tell the Docker container to spin up on a particular version. So kind of he made some changes here to have this grab from environment variable. That's pretty cool. And then he's just basically grabbing that from a variable. That looks good. Make dir p, that's all good. Just doing some small refactoring to make it the project a little bit cleaner, which I appreciate. All right, so on the agent, so on this system, I plan to have like a dedicated server, and that server is hosting like an agent, right? The agent is basically just sitting there and listening for WebSocket events from the master API. And the API will be like, hey, I need you to spin up a Minecraft server with 2 gigs of memory, and the agent's going to see that command and basically spin up a Docker container and get everything set up. So I guess there's a need to send over some JSON to the backend now. So he added this middleware. If you don't know Express, there's ways to like set up middleware functions that kind of parse the inputs and outputs of your backend. So here he does some code cleanup. He just removed a console log. That's cool, and kind of add an if statement. I guess this must have been throwing some exception if servers wasn't defined. Although, why would this ever be get servers proxy? Okay, I guess there's a bug with this. Anyway, so this is actually a big PR. There's a lot of changes, so I don't know if I'm going to go through all of this right here in the stream. Let me go back to the chat, see if anyone has questions. Let's see, Sheldon user React. Yep, exactly that. Exactly. I'm caching multiple so you can have the complicated ones and failed ones. Then you can filter out the ones that failed and retry them. Vamshi said, hi, do you have any plans on making JavaScript projects? Do you mean in the stream or just in general? I've been kind of burned out on making just simple tutorial videos. Like, it's fun to make JavaScript tutorials, but after you've done like 10 of them, you're kind of burned out. This is why I'm doing like this Minecraft devlog series. It's just something that's more like on my skill level, and it's more enjoyable to do. And if other people can watch and learn from it, then I think that's a good series to kind of keep going for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, in the stream, I'm welcome to answer some JavaScript questions. But overall, for my channel, I'm trying to just get more into the advanced technical sides of like building real life projects instead of just like, here's how you make a to-do list application. Because there's already like 20,000 tutorials out there that show you the same thing. Trying to diversify a little bit. You know, this PR is pretty big, and most of you watching this stream probably aren't familiar with this code base, so you might just be kind of lost. But to be honest, most of this stuff, like, I'm just reading through, and I don't truly know what it does. I like to check out their branch and actually try stuff out sometimes if I don't know what's going on, but here's like the main thing, server config. So it looks like he defined some type of configuration that is going to parse through the server config and basically prevent, okay, so is blacklisted. He has like this functionality where there's only some type of server properties we want the user to be able to upload, such as like server port and server IP. We don't want someone to manually change that on the Minecraft server because then it won't work. I need to know exactly what port the server is running on inside the Docker container, or else I can't set up the mapping correctly. So we want to blacklist some of these property files, or some of these properties, I guess I should say. One thing I want to add to this project is I want to add more like testing. There's no testing right now, and I think just at least adding some type of end-to-end Cypress tests to verify that a user can do like some of the most important features like rent a server, stop a server, restart a server, update configuration. Just have some type of automated testing and hook that into GitHub Actions so that when someone makes a PR or I make a PR, it runs all of these automated tests and verifies that, hey, what the person is changing, it doesn't break anything. So I wonder where this went, password hash. We used to take the password that the user sent in and hash it, but now he's not storing the password anywhere. I guess he does it down here. Create user persistence, register, interactor. Maybe account comes over. Sorry, is this reviewing this PR? Is this boring for a live stream? I know my title of my stream is I'll help you with JavaScript questions, but let me just finish this up real quick. All right, what's this guy doing? So Git server configuration API. Okay, that looks fine. Be cleaned up some. What's this? Server config TS. Okay, so here's where he defines like all the properties that can exist on a Minecraft configuration. So we have like all these different properties, allow flight, allow nether. And he's specifying if it needs to be a Boolean, a string, and he's saying that if it is a string, it could be peaceful, easy, normal, hard. Awesome. I'm definitely liking these changes. This is exactly what we needed. So Other than a couple of things, and I'll probably come back later when I'm not streaming to kind of give this a formal review. I'm gonna go ahead and just say request changes, and then he'll actually like go and see my comments. He'll probably either comment back on these comments and say like, hey, you know, I'm just misunderstanding this. Like the variable's declared on line 10 or something. But once he either addresses my comments or he responds, I'll go and I'll probably just approve the PR or merge it and then try to run it locally. Honestly, I don't care if there's some breaking changes in this because I'll run it locally and just fix whatever might break. But yeah, again, if you want to contribute to this, be sure to fork this, do some pull requests. This other contributor, Kindle, is basically just doing a lot of documentation changes. So if you don't actually want to get into the code and you just want to like get into the documentation, you can do that as well. All right, let's try to go back and answer a question because I kind of ignored all you guys. So, so if Sheldon, you're still here, I'll try to answer this question. So he wants to know, how do I catch and retry a failed Axios request to a backend, right? So what I've done, let me load up my browser over here. There's like libraries that kind of do this for you. There might be an Axios retry library, which you basically wrap Axios, and it's going to make a request to your backend. And if that backend request fails with a certain status code, it's going to try again, right? So you can say Axios retry, you import it, you wrap Axios, and you tell it you want to do 3 max retries. You do your request, and then you can basically just do a normal promise.then.catch. And if the first one fails, it's just going to retry, and you're not going to see that there's like any failures at all. Like it's not going to throw an exception. But if all 3 attempts fail, that's, I believe, when you can do a .catch on it. So I would definitely just look into doing something like this. You can customize it how you want, but yeah, I will use a library because it's going to be the easiest way to hit the ground running. But we can try to actually just implement this if my computer will allow me to. So I'm trying to figure out, I think what I need to do, let me just go ahead and make a quick npm project, and we can try to use this library to actually just do a request to a fake backend endpoint. If you all are okay with watching that. It might take me a while to get this set up. Like my CPU fan is going crazy right now. So I want to install Axios and Axios retry. I believe I also want to install Parcel because that's one way that you can basically bundle up your application if you want to, but you don't have to use Parcel. Let me delete some of this stuff. So we have a tabs file that we don't need. All right, while that's loading, let's go back to the chat. Let's see if I'm missing anything. What's up, Donnie? By the way, shout out to Donnie. He has a YouTube channel. He does like TypeScript and more advanced topics. So definitely go check him out if you want to learn more about TypeScript and how to do like proper software engineering with like clean architecture, dependency injection, dependency inversion, creating interfaces, stuff like that. He has some good content. Yeah, but I definitely agree. There's too many content creators doing the exact same thing. But I mean, just they can do what they want, whatever floats their boat. Diego Cami, I don't know why my message didn't show up. I said that you can use promise all settled. Oh, maybe you did. Well, I don't know if all settled is what he's kind of asking about. I think he's asking about you make a request to the backend fails. You want your front end to just retry a couple of times. And if after 5 retries, then you show an error or something. Doing a nice video on the testing of this project would be nice. Yeah, I plan to just start adding some tests to this project. I think testing is one of the main topics that no one actually teaches like on YouTube. It's one of the most important things to have when you become a professional software engineer. It's the most important thing to do on your project to make sure it's successful, but no one teaches you. So it'd be nice to actually show some more videos about test-driven development or just testing in general, integration tests, unit tests, site like smoke tests, end-to-end, etc. Vamshi Reddy, Krishna Reddy, do I need to know TypeScript to learn React? No, you don't need to know TypeScript. In fact, if you know JavaScript, I would just start using React with JavaScript. What are the prerequisites to learn React? You need to know a decent amount about JavaScript. You don't have to be an expert at it, but like you need to know how to write for loops. You need to know how to do the .map function, .filter, .for each. Reduce, not that important, but what else do you need to know? You need to know about anonymous functions, fat arrow functions, callback functions, promises, how to resolve promises, how to reject promises. What else do you need in React? Let's see. I'm sure there's a lot more. Like you need to know the basics, strings, how to make numbers, how to deal with arrays, how to manipulate objects, like object destructuring, object spread operator. Those are like the basics that you need to learn. Like, and those are just like the ES6 JavaScript basics. And then once you have a good foundation on those, then I would say you can go on to learn React. I see a lot of people trying to learn React and they're just like struggling hardcore because they don't know how to do like simple stuff that you should have learned when you're learning JavaScript. Let's see. She says, I know Python, like intermediate stuff, learning JavaScript. Now there are not many jobs in Python, but there are lots. One second. All right. So yeah, I mean, if there's no jobs for Python in your area, then yeah, I would say learn something else. But yeah, hopefully I answer your question. Let's see. So Skilaza, hi, love from India. What's up? Welcome to the stream. Diego says TypeScript is not required to learn React. Yep, that is correct. Oh wait, it skipped down some. Vamshi, you should know. Let's see, you should know some JavaScript and how to interact with the DOM. Yeah, that's another topic. Interacting with the DOM. The DOM is kind of important. It's really important when you need to do like low-level DOM manipulation. Like you need to know how to do event listeners and how to like attach click listeners to object or attach like mouse hover event listeners. You don't do it often in React because typically you want to do like the actual provided on-click properties that React gives you. But sometimes they don't have like an on-wheel scroll event listener, so you have to either write your own or go and find a third-party library that does it. One good example is like if you have a drop-down on a web page. Let's see if this shows up for you all. So right now there's a drop-down here. If you wanted to close this when the user clicks out of the drop-down, you probably need to do some type of lower-level DOM manipulation. Maybe it's possible with just using React, but sometimes you have to like add a click listener to the body, and when the body fires, you need to change some type of context or fire an event to say close the tab. That's like one of the most complicated things you might need to do with lower level, or if you need to do a lot of performance stuff, but I don't do that often in my app. Let's see, Donnie says, a bit weird to see Yup in 2021 on a TypeScript project. Yo, I must be really far behind. One second. Sorry, y'all. The shower rod in my bathroom just like fell down and made a huge noise, and my wife thought like I fell down or something. Yeah, I haven't used a Yup project before, so I don't know. Donnie, let me know if that's even worth like using. I've used Joy to do validation, but I'm just letting people contribute how they want. If they find a project or a package that they want to use, I'm not going to be like a strict person about preventing people from committing code. That's one thing I hate about open source is that like you'll fix something and it takes months to get merged in because the guy's like nitpicking everything you do in your PR, and it's like, dude, just merge it. Like I'm adding value to your project or to your library, and they have to keep going back and forth making all these little changes just because it's not like 100% the way you want it. It kind of deters people from working open source. So I'm trying to like do the opposite. You have a PR, I'm gonna just not really nitpick it, but if it looks good, I'll merge it in and just refactor it myself. Especially when you're dealing with people who are trying to learn more. Like you can't be too nitpicky about some stuff. All right. Vamshi says, of jobs on React, but I'm confused about front-end frameworks like React and back-end frameworks. I'm a bit confused of how it actually works, how those things all fit in. Yeah, I mean, React is just for building out a front end, and then typically that front end talks to a back end, right? And that back end could be written in Express or Django or whatever framework or library you want to use. And basically, you're just sending little pieces of JSON data back and forth. That's kind of like the hierarchy picture of how like the back end, the front end, and all this stuff fits together. Vamshi says, I don't even know what I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know and everyone doesn't know. Just keep on every day to try to learn a little bit of something new, and you'll find yourself just becoming really good in a short amount of time. You just kind of follow that. Bro, I feel bad for Sheldon because I kind of like stopped answering his question. There's just too many questions, man. Okay, so let me try to get through these and maybe we can do like a little coding thing for Sheldon. So Buggyman says, can you show the concept of search throttling? I can maybe give you a high-level overview of how that might work. That was Buggyman. All right, so can you help me with PHP if possible, how to insert JSON responses from an API URL post request to MySQL database like ID name? I don't know PHP, but we can maybe look at some code examples. I've done some PHP a long time ago. So first I'd ask you, like, what, are you just using PHP or do you use some type of like framework like Slim? I think it's called Slim. I'm sure there's like PHP frameworks out there, like what is that one that everyone uses? Kind of like Django, but it's not. I forget it, but oh, Laravel, that's the one. Are you using like a framework or just PHP that takes in like post data? So Diego said he said something about showing the request that failed, like the browser when you download a file and some failed. Johnny says thanks for the shout out. Yeah, no problem. What frame is best for JavaScript, React or Vue? I would learn React for getting a job, but I personally like using Svelte. Kia says, hi, would you explain how we can make sure the requests are from our web page to the server and it is not from an attacker or a vulnerable script out of our app? I mean, security issues. Like you're talking about your backend. So typically you can, first of all, you can disable cores, but ultimately I don't think there's a way to check, right? Anyone can do a request to your backend endpoint if they know the URL, and they can spoof whatever headers they want, right? They could say, I'm from origin whatever, and send that to your backend. So I don't think there's a way to verify that the request comes right from your URL. Unless anyone else here who knows more about security can answer this question, but the most you can do is that, like, if you're hosting a website and you have scripts on your website that are trying to make requests out, you can set up basically headers, security header policies that make sure that the requests of your browser are only allowed to basically only allowed to hit certain endpoints, right? So I think it's called like an access. What is it called? My brain is not functioning today. Hold on, allowed origins? No, I mean, we set this up in our app. Let's see, specify header only certain domains. I forget the name of this. Like, there is a way to set it up because we've done it, where when someone loads up your application, you basically tell the browser you're only allowed to make requests to my API or maybe Google Analytics or something. Any other requests are basically shut down. Called same site policy. No, I can't think of the name of it though, but yeah, content security policy. I was looking for the actual, like, I thought there was like an actual header that says like you can allow it to do like blob requests to this endpoint or HTTP requests to another endpoint. Oh yeah, this is it. Content security policy. Okay, that's the name. Just totally forgot about it. But yeah, we set up I think a bunch of connect sources, so you can tell it like, hey, you can only connect to these URLs, and you can do the same thing with like different iframes, images, media. But I think the one you probably care about is connect source, unless you need to get like into the the details of stuff. As you can tell, I'm not like a security expert. Let's see. But yeah, again, to answer your question, you can't really prevent anyone from hitting your app. Like, I could load up Postman right now and just fake out some headers if you have some type of policy set up to say like origin has to be something, and just try to hit your backend. Let's see. Donnie says Zod as a functional is great. I'm actually about to try fluent validation.typescript. Class validator is something I'm starting to hate at the moment. Let me open a new tab for Zod. Maybe I'll check it out. npm. Let me try to get through some more questions. How do WebSockets work? I don't really know the lower level way WebSockets work. I know that your browser is going to make like a TCP request to a backend endpoint, and then there's like some type of like handshake protocol thing that goes on where it upgrades the TCP request to like a socket. And then you can basically send events from the client to the backend, and the connection stays alive. So like you can just keep on sending data back and forth and stuff. But yeah, I think it's pretty easy to get going. Like on the backend, there's like libraries like Socket.io where you can create a socket server. I think they do their own implementation of like a WebSocket. It's not truly a WebSocket, but you can connect the front end to your backend Socket.io server. And your front end could use a Socket.io client to basically send messages, or you can get more like lower level and deal with the actual like socket. I think the browser has like WebSocket set up on it. MDN WebSocket. Yeah, I think the browser has like a WebSocket API just directly baked into it, and you can connect to socket servers. But this is not compatible with Socket.io, I believe. But usually just send events like you do socket.send. You'll send a message. That message will be parsed from the backend, and you'll just do different stuff based on what's in the message and send stuff back as well. That's kind of how they work at a high level. Sorry, Sheldon. Still a lot of questions, but maybe we'll get to it. I don't know. So only use PHP, no framework, pure code. Let me make a little note on that one. So you want SKLZA wants PHP bars JSON post request. Is that what you asked for? I don't even remember at this point. Let me scroll back up. Oh. Put into MySQL. Something like that. All right. He says that's not really possible. Yeah, so I just got to this now. This is going back to that security question. He's saying it's not possible, which is correct. Diego says, dude, I want to build something with Svelte. It looks so awesome. Have used it in production. I have not used Svelte in production. I've only used it for like a little side project that we did at work just to kind of learn something new. But I would choose Svelte over React if it was more popular, because like the more I use React, the more I don't want to use React. There's just so much like boilerplate just to do something simple like update a state variable. Like I don't have to bring in a useState hook and then have to call a function called setState and then pass that a callback in some instances just to modify the state of a single variable. Like I rather just say like let let x equals 1, and then later in my code I could do x++, and then it just automatically updates that variable. Like I understand why React does that like immutable approach to updating state variables, but the more complex your little React components get, the more you're just like, dude, I don't want to use React. Especially when you start using like a use effect, and you have to have like multiple use effect blocks because one of them has to depend on the state changing of another one. It's like kind of going back to Angular where you have a bunch of like watch directives where you say like this function needs to watch for the change of that variable, and that variable needs to watch for the change of another variable, and it's like a big chain of things. It's just kind of messy. Let's see. Buggyman says, I also think cores is the way to check this, and besides that we can enable minimal headers and require to operate. No, I don't think cores won't prevent anyone from hitting your backend API, right? I could still load up Postman and hit your API, even if cores is on. Cores is just basically to protect the user should go to your website, like mywebsite.com, and kind of prevent your backend from getting hits from like other URLs, I guess. I don't know if I explained that right, but whatever. Let's see. Naruto says, do you still do logic build exercise? No, not really. Are you talking about like those programming problem solving things like leak code or whatever? I don't really do those anymore. I used to do them a lot, and they're really fun to do. But I think at this point in my life, I'm just more curious to like actually building something. Like I want to build a business, build a software as a service, like actually make money on the side by using my skill set. Like the actual like business part of the whole software development process is actually kind of interesting to learn. And I'm not really focused on just logic building because I think I can understand like most logic if it's like a small or medium hard problem. Let's see. Peak says, have you already had a look at Imba? Quite small right now, but I don't know what Imba is. Is that like a node module? Imba is a fully full-stack programming language for the web that compiles to performant JavaScript. It is language-level support for defining, extending. You know, I think I remember reading about this a long time ago. Isn't like Scrimba, the learning platform, built using this? Pretty sure it is. Yeah, it seems cool. Again, there's like all these different tools and languages and frameworks and libraries, but honestly, they're just a distraction from like the main goal, which is building websites and building business applications for people. The more you jump around from all these different like cool tools, the more you realize that you're not actually making progress on the thing that matters, and that's solving problems for people. So it looks cool. I probably wouldn't spend time learning it personally, but it kind of reminds me of like CoffeeScript and like Pug and Jade, where you don't have curly braces and stuff. When I first got hired as like a contractor, I was on a project where we just used I think it's called less. So it's like CSS with no curly braces. It's all like indentation based and yeah, like no special characters. And then we used, I think it was Pug, which is again like for HTML, you have no special characters. There's no like less than or greater than signs for your HTML tags. And it's just all indentation based. And we used CoffeeScript for compiling our JavaScript code, right? So Again, that's like JavaScript with no special characters, no curly braces, all indentation based. And kind of like Python, but what I find is that like you waste a lot of time trying to figure out silly little bugs because you accidentally indented something wrong, or you like put something on a line that it shouldn't have been. So I rather just have the curly braces, honestly. I think it just helps me visually know where stuff is nested and blocked. But it looks cool. If you enjoy using this, yeah, go for it. Yeah, probably. Imba will fade away like CoffeeScript did. CoffeeScript was cool. I'll give it that. Like, you can actually write a lot of concise, simple code using CoffeeScript and Jade and all these other things, but at the end of the day, use the tool that a majority of people are using. I know it sounds dumb to like follow the masses, but when it comes to the industry, you don't want to learn a tool and then like get hired on a project and you're using like 1,000 different tools, because then like you can't hit the ground running on your new project. And the industry has too many like variations of all these different things, and it's really hard to like jump from one company to the next just because one tech lead at a company decided that he doesn't like curly braces, so he's going to use CoffeeScript, whereas 95% of the web dev world doesn't use CoffeeScript. So like really, it's just a bad decision. But Furman says, hello, I'm new to JavaScript. I don't know how to begin. I want to use WebSocket in my project, but I don't know how to. Yeah, go to Socket.io. This is like the easiest way to get going. Go to their Get Starting Guide and kind of read through it. Basically, on your front end, you're going to import a WebSocket, or sorry, you're going to import like socket.io.client file, and you basically just run like a command to connect to a backend endpoint, okay? And then if you know Express or Node, you're going to run a Socket.io server on Express. This is kind of outlined here, which your client is going to connect to, right? And then basically when you connect, you have something called like a socket or a channel. Let's see if I can find it. All right, here you go. You have like io.onConnection. So when someone from the front end connects to your backend, you have this socket that you can then send or emit events to. And your client kind of also has the same kind of like socket.onConnection, where basically when you get an event, I think it's like more like socket.onEvent. But sorry, when the server sends an event over to the front end, then you can run some logic in the front end if you want to. That's what I would do. Go here, read through the docs. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to read through documentation. So go here and read through the Get Starting Guide, and you can do this. What's up, D. Thompson? Welcome to the stream. Hope you've been doing well. Let's see. Imba, JavaScript, WebSockets, my project. I don't know how to. What's up, Kanan? Welcome to the stream. Someone wants to learn about Firebase pagination. I don't really know Firebase. So I can't really answer that question. Diego says, right on, feeling the same way about React right now, but where I live, there's literally no Svelte job, so yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of like I mentioned and D. Thompson Dev mentioned. By the way, D. Thompson Dev, check him out on Twitter. He has like a huge Twitter following, and also he has a YouTube channel where he publishes like some pretty good, just like advice videos and stuff. So check him out. I don't know if he's been publishing YouTube videos lately, but the ones he does, they're good stuff. Let's see. Diego says, yeah, I just read that one. What is reducers? What is reducers in JavaScript? Like the reduce function? I could maybe explain that. All right, let me write some of these down. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of these. But we finally got through all these questions, so I hope you all kind of had fun watching me try to explain and answer these questions. Let's finally, if Sheldon is still here, I doubt he's even still here anymore, but he asked, how do I retry promises? So let's just try to do that. I have a Node project kind of set up over here. And what I want to do is I was trying to set up Parcel so I can actually build this. And I'll be honest, I don't know if this is going to work too well. Let's see, Parcel index HTML. So parcel is a tool where you can basically point it to your index file, and it's going to take your index file and kind of run through it and find any scripts that you're trying to import, and it's going to bundle it all together. It's also going to host it. It has like a nice little local hosting capability. So I'm using that so I can basically say npm run dev. That should take the index file, it should bundle it up, and it should host it on port 1234. And let me close out of some of these tabs because this is, I'm running out of memory on this computer right now. Localhost 1234. All right, again, we're trying to show how to do some promise retry stuff with Axios. All right, so if my head's blocking code, just forgive me. I think it's on the left side of the page right now, but I'm sure it's going to block at some point. So in our JavaScript file, when you're using parcel, I believe you can actually import stuff. So I could say like import Axios from Axios, and let's see if this works. Import can only be used in TypeScript. Oh wait, there it goes. So with Axios, hopefully you know how to do this. You can do a GET request to whatever you want. So I could do a GET request to like, what endpoint do we want to do? Let's do localhost 5555. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that it's going to retry a couple of times until I spin up my server. So hopefully this makes sense. So I'll do an Axios request to that localhost 5555. I'll do it then. We'll get a response back, and I'll let GitHub Copilot type everything for me. Here we go. All right, so if I refresh my page, you should see a request be made, and it should fail, right? Because there is no 5555 running. Browser scripts cannot have imports or exports. Maybe I need to say module. How do you do it again? Is it module? It's called like, I forget how to do this. I might have to go and read up on this. Parcel with import statements. Haven't used parcel in a while, so I got to refresh my memory onto how to do this. When you upgrade from a previous version of parcel, you'll need to add the type equals module. All right, well, I did that. Let's see if this works. Refresh the page. Let's filter in for 5555. Console log. Okay, it made the request. It failed. Sorry, y'all. I know there's not that much real estate. You can't really see what my code's doing. I think we're done with this. Let me close that. I think my head's probably like right here, so it should be okay. So anyone who's like joining in, what we're trying to do is someone asked, how do you make Axios retry requests if those requests fail? So what I'm showing you right now is I have a web application running that's doing a request using Axios to port 5555. And we can basically show you, I don't know why this wasn't showing up in the networks tab. Maybe I need to just type in localhost. Okay, so you saw it made the request and it failed. Okay, that should make sense. What I'm trying to show you is that there's a package called Axios retry. So import Axios retry from Axios retry. And you can basically, let me go and actually read up on this because I'm going to type this wrong and it's just not going to work. So always go to the docs and read through them. Make sure you're doing the right thing before you just guess at typing stuff. So import Axios retry. Yep, that's working. And they're saying you wrap Axios with this. So I think this by default will wrap all your Axios requests with 3 retries. So I could say 10 if I wanted to, or 5. And I'm going to save this, and I think by default, it's just going to keep on retrying until it works. There might be something called exponential backoff built into this, or you might have to set it up. This is really important because what it does is if your server had an issue, you don't want to keep on just hitting it over and over and over again. You want to give the server some time to like churn through the events it's getting. So typically we attach something called like exponential backoff. So like your front end will make a request. If it fails, it'll wait like half a second. Then it'll try again. If it fails, it might wait for 1.5 seconds. If it fails again, it might wait for like 3.8 seconds. So it slowly adds like a delay to your request so that it doesn't flood your backend with a bunch of requests. Because what you don't want to do is like your backend's having a little bit of issues, and then everyone who's connected on your like web client just keeps on hitting you with more requests because stuff's failing, and then your backend can never recover because it's just getting flooded with a ton of requests. Anyway, that might have been too advanced of a topic, but what I'm trying to show you is, okay, now there is no port 555, right? So if I refresh, you will see that it just did a ton of requests to the backend. It did 5 requests or 5 retries. In fact, I'm going to add in that exponential backoff so that we can actually visualize what's going on, because now this is like super fast. It just makes a bunch of requests. Let's refresh the page. You should see it make a request, and then it slowly starts doing more requests to the backend until it finally fails. So let's go down here and add a catch. And I'll just say like, this failed. All right, let's go ahead and start it. It made some requests. Go to the console log, and then at some point it should say this failed, right? There you go. So it finally failed after the 5 retries, and now we actually get to the catch statement. So just to kind of show you the other path where the backend's actually working, I'm going to go ahead and just load up a new terminal here. I'm going to say npx HTTP server port 5555. What that's going to do is npx grabs a package from npm, which happens to be called HTTP server, which is a minimal server that hosts web files. Okay, so if I run this, it's going to basically host my files on port 5555. And if I do this right, let me do like 10 retries. So while that's trying to like hit and retry, I'm going to go ahead and host that server on port 5555. And at some point, the request will go through. We just got a CORS issue. So I think I need to figure out how do you specify CORS? Let me try that, see if that does it. There we go. All right, let me try it again. So again, the front end is going to try up to 10 times to hit this backend endpoint. If it fails after 10 times, it prints out a console error. If it's successful, it prints out the response. So let's clear everything, and let's go ahead and refresh my page, and you'll see it like trying and trying and trying. And then if I host that server on port 5555, finally one of those Axios requests will resolve and print out on line 8 the response. So Sheldon, I hope that answers your question. That's what I would do. You don't have to use Axios retry. You could try to write your own custom logic, although I would not recommend it because it's probably going to be bug prone. Not that I'm saying you couldn't figure it out, but I'm saying like just use this existing library that does exactly what you want. There might be some caveats. This might not work on every single like scenario. Like if you're trying to download a file and the backend's failing, maybe it won't work, but hopefully that helped you out, Sheldon. Let me know. So Lacey said, I have 2 years of experience with NGRX. NGRX. I've used that before. Isn't that an Angular? That's an Angular thing, right? But I never got what the advantage of using it. Would be nice to hear your opinion. NGRX, that is like the state management library tool for Angular, which uses like observables, I believe. Yeah, so really the whole purpose of NGRX, Redux, MobX, all these different like state management libraries. It's just a way so you can take your state and kind of make it global. Because sometimes in applications, you need to have shared global state. For an example, when you log into YouTube, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's just talk about this dropdown. Okay, so let's say that you have in React, you have like a small component called dropdown or top nav dropdown. When you open it, you display it, right? You can do that inside the component. But what if there is something else on the page? Let's say like there's a timer on the page, and after 5 seconds, after the timer goes off, it shows a modal. Well, what if you want to close that drop-down navigation the moment the modal comes up, right? The only way to do that is if you share some type of state at a higher level. If you're familiar with Angular, I guess that would just be like, do they do prop drilling in Angular? I don't really know. But basically, you have to share some state up top to have like, when the modal turns on, you need to go and set a boolean to false so that the drop-down collapses. So one reason of using NGRX or state management libraries in general is so that you can take that state and put it at a global level so that anyone can tell that top navigation to close, right? Any component in your application could say, hey, publish an event to say close that top nav. And since the top nav is subscribed to it with an observable, whenever that top nav boolean changes to false, it knows it just close. That's kind of a simple example. But another example is like once you log into an application, you know how typically they show like your name in the top or your username? But what if you also want that username displayed on your like welcome homepage, right? So now you have a piece of state, your user information, needed in 2 different places in the application. So if you do it the non-state management way, you either have 2 separate components both requesting data from the backend just to get the user information, or they're maybe hitting a service internally that's caching that, which could be one solution. Just cache that information and have both of those components fetched from the cache. Or you could have, like when the app loads, have that user information stored at a higher level with like a state management library like NGRX, so that your landing page that says welcome web dev junkie displays the name correctly, just like your top nav would say web dev junkie or something. Hopefully that answered that question. So D Thompson Dev, bringing the YouTube videos back real soon. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. You made some good videos. I like watching it. I like watching your quality of videos improve over time. But yeah, it's been cool. I have been preparing a full course to drop and going to release a bunch of tutorials real soon. Cool. So everyone watching, be sure to go and check out D Thompson Dev's YouTube channel. He plans to be dropping some more tutorials and courses. So good stuff. Sheldon says here, Peak says amazing port type module. Yeah, if I just went to the chat, he would have helped me out. Remember when I was struggling with this? I just needed to add type module, but it's like the little things like this in programming that you end up spending 5 minutes on, and then like, it's just a pain. Let's see. Moritz, is it Moritz? What are you doing? You can show the lib files how it works inside to get better idea of what it uses. Is it like set timeout if failed or something else? You can show the lib files how it works inside to get a better idea. Oh, are you talking about the Axios retry? Yeah, we can go look at Axios retry if you want to look at that, Sheldon. Just let me know. It's really good to go and dive into third-party libraries and actually look at their source code. It can be really complex and overwhelming at sometimes, but it's really good to understand the libraries that you're using and the intricacies of them, because sometimes you'll use a library and it just doesn't work the way you want, and you'll find out that there's actually a bug in that library. You dive through the code and you see that there's a bug. So it's sometimes useful to kind of dive through the libraries. What's up, Deep Space? Deep Space also has a YouTube channel. Be sure to check him out. Hopefully you've been doing good these days. I know you had some issues a while back, but I think you're kind of good now. Let's see. Sheldon says perfect. Deep Space says explain recursion function like I'm 5. I could try to do that. Let's see. Dark Pain. DOM manipulation is just too much for my unsophisticated brain to understand. Dang, man. What's up with the negative self-talk? You know, be positive. You can do this. DOM manipulation is doable. And just to kind of show you, by the way, if you asked a question earlier, if I wrote you down this list, let me know if you're still here and I'll answer it. Let's see. So Sheldon, I answered you. I think I got that. Buggy Man, if you're still here, you wanted to see about search throttling. So post in the chat if you're still here in Skiliza, PHP, into MySQL. If you're still here, let me know. I'll give these people some time to respond. If not, I'm just going to move on. Let's see. So someone asked about DOM manipulation. It really just boils down to like just grabbing a DOM element. So like, let's say you wanted to get the, let's say in the body you have like a div ID of hello. DOM manipulation is really just grabbing that DOM element. So I can say like, oh look, Copilot just did it for me. So get the element by ID. This is like a global, this is a global object you have on the browser that allows you to grab an element by an ID, and then you can change properties on that, right? So inner HTML is going to basically take the stuff that's here and just like put hello world exclamation mark. But the cool thing is that JavaScript is the thing doing that. So you can kind of change that DOM information dynamically. That's basically what DOM manipulation boils down to. It can get more complex if you're doing with like a list of DOM elements that you need to like dynamically add and show, but that's kind of the gist of it. All right, let me go back to Buggy Man because they are actually still here. So I'm surprised you guys stuck around, huh? You guys are liking the stream. Can you show a concept of search throttling? Yes. Let's try to do that, shall we? Let's go back to our index.js file and search throttling. You know, the way we do this, if you just want to use like something simple like an input box, and we're going to say ID of text, and let's go to our script and we're going to use some DOM manipulation to get that input DOM element. So I'm going to say const input is equal to document dot get element by ID. I think we call the input. Let me go back and check. What do we call it? No, we call it text. All right, so how do I want to do this? For this one, we want to use something called Lodash. There's probably other libraries out there, but I'm going to install Lodash because it has a function called debounce. I don't think there's a debounce function built in the JavaScript, but debounce is basically a way to have a function halt its execution until a certain amount of time has passed, right? So I could put a debounce wrapper around a search function to say, if nowhere else my code has called this search function within half a second, then make the request to the backend. So I don't know if I'm answering this question. You asked about throttling for requests. So Buggyman, am I on the right path? Is this kind of what you're asking for? But let's go ahead and import debounce from Lodash. And we're going to just see, how do you do this? Let's say const run search, and maybe Copilot will actually tell me how to do this. Wow. Yeah, let's just use all that code. It looks like it's good. Copilot blows my mind sometimes. Like, it's actually pretty useful. But let's not use Axios retry. Let's just do a simple get request on localhost 5555 like we did before. Okay, why is there so much stuff here? Let's do this, and then we'll give response back, and we are just simply going to say console log response.data. Delete all this other stuff we don't need. We don't need the catch, really. Let's just pretend like we're searching for something. Input.value. All right, so again, what we're doing is when someone types into the input box, which I think should be showing up over here now, we want to basically run this run search function, right? So what I could do is say, get the DOM element. Again, this is called DOM manipulation, I guess. We're going to add an event listener. Actually, I'm gonna cheat and just say on click, and we're gonna call run search. Okay, oh, not on click. Yeah, this is not what I want. Maybe it's on change. Bear with me. I don't know if this is gonna do what we want, but as I type in, oh wait, debounce needs to take. I think it takes the second argument. So like we need to do 500 milliseconds. All right, I think the backend is crashing because I don't have that thing running anymore. Let's see. MPX, no. Oh, it is running. Okay. Let me make sure I can hit it. So localhost 5555. Make sure that this shows a list of. Interesting. It's supposed to actually show like my files that are in my folder, but. All right, so I am a little bit stuck here. Let's not do the Axios request right now. I think there's an issue going on here. But let's just go ahead and print out a word, like searching for something. And as I type, okay, I don't know what's going on. It shouldn't be trying to search for anything. Maybe I need to like do a hard refresh on this. Hold on. All right, are we good now? Let me type A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So like as someone keeps typing, if 500 milliseconds pass by, then I believe it'll call this debounce function. You know, this is not working like I thought it would. Taking much longer than. Let me go back. Am I even answering your question, Buggy Man? I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but this is what I thought you meant by throttling. Basically, if someone were to type in like in a search box to type in like eggs, we don't want to keep on doing a request for every time they type in a letter. We actually want to wait a little bit, and then when they're done typing, we are going to make that request. And I don't know why it's taking so long because I thought this was supposed to be milliseconds, but it seems like it's longer than that. Wait. Number of milliseconds to delay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm doing it right. Maybe my computer's just like lagging right now, but you'd expect that when I type in, like after 500 milliseconds, it should have console logged something. But basically what you do is instead of logging, you do your Axios GET request here, and that's kind of how you throttle how many requests that you're doing. But yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question at all. Cool. Let's see. Skilaza. He asked a PHP question. I don't know PHP, so take this advice with a grain of salt. But let's see, save to MySQL. I'm not going to get PHP running, so I'm just going to have to try to find examples online and kind of talk about them. Let's go ahead and look. So, you know what? We have GitHub Copilot going. Let me see if Copilot will just give me the example for us. Won't that be pretty cool? I'll make a new file called like save. Okay, what's going on here? Let me close some of this stuff. I got too many terminals running. All right, new file called save-to-do.php. And if I remember the syntax for PHP, you do something like this. You might not even need to do this if you're on a PHP file. But typically, what I want to do is, how do you do commas in PHP? Get post form data. All right, so I think that's how you get, like, if someone does a post request to your backend, that's how you get the actual post data. And then I could say save request to MySQL. And that is basically gonna hopefully auto-generate my stuff. I think you have to do like start SQL connection. I think it's gonna, you have to do something like this. You'll connect to MySQL first. You'll make your query to take your to-do that the person posted to your backend. And then you're gonna basically run SQL query. I don't know if this is how you do it. I'm just going with what GitHub Copilot is telling me, but I kind of vaguely remember this is what I had to do when you have a to-do list. Like if you had a PHP page and someone submits a form to that page, you're going to have access to the data that they sent in the form, right? So if you wanted to do like, this is like your string input box that says to do, and then you're going to connect your database using your username, password, and your database name. Then you're going to create or craft a SQL command. You might want to double check that this isn't doing some type of SQL injection, security vulnerability, which it might be. And then you're going to basically tell the connection to run that query. And I think that's how you do it. I don't really know, but hopefully Copilot knows better than I do. Yes, but JSON files. Are you asking, so the post request is going to be like a application/JSON content type? I want to store JSON codes. Oh, you want to store like an actual JSON object in MySQL or Postgres or whatever? I'm not sure how to do that. You might have to like stringify it. Like let's say this is like JSON. Your front end would probably have to like either stringify the JSON and send it back. And then whatever your JSON is, you need to store it into your database as a string. That's actually JSON. And then when you fetch it back from the database, you probably just need to parse the JSON. Either that or there's probably yeah, it's hard for me to answer this question because I don't use PHP. But it's either you want to store JSON blobs into your database, or you're just trying to ask this part, like how do I take the JSON here and parse it? So how, let's see, parse JSON payload. Get name from payload. So maybe that's how you do it. So basically there's going to be read JSON payload from post request. Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, so Peak says MySQL supports native JSON data types. Yeah, so you might just be able to store the JSON directly into the database if that's what you're trying to do. I'll kind of reconsider like why you're trying to store JSON into a database if that's what you're doing, because you might want to just use like Mongo or something that's actually like a object store. But if you really need to get that stored into your MySQL database, then you can do that. But yeah, I don't know PHP, so it's hard for me to answer your question, and I don't really truly know what you're asking. What time is it? 3:28. All right, so I'm gonna go on for maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. So if you have any easier questions I can answer, let's just go ahead and try to like answer some of these. Or if you have any just like random questions you have for me, feel free to ask me before I drop in 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, I mean, I think inner HTML opens you up to cross-site scripting because you really need to make sure that whatever you're putting as inner HTML doesn't have like JavaScript script tags in it. There's ways to probably like parse that data to make sure it's safe to actually just inject directly into your DOM. But the issue is if someone has like, let me do this. I can't really give you a full example because I'm not really a security expert, but let's say there's some text from your database with script. Right? So let's say that there's like some script that was actually stored in your database because a user, like your backend, didn't check this. And then they wanted to just like do something with that script. What you can actually do is you can say like document.body dot actually let me look at my index file here. So we have text. So if I do like const text is equal to document.get element by ID, and I say text.innerHTML is equal to that, I think what this is going to do is it's going to actually show an alert the moment my application loads. So let me try to do this. Maybe it doesn't. It might be just completely off base with what the issue is. Oh, I don't think input has, let me go over here. Let me make this a div. I don't think input has inner HTML or something. Yeah, I don't know how to do it, but I think there's some type of vulnerability where like, can you set scripts? It is possible to execute JavaScript via inner HTML without using tags as illustrated on MDN inner HTML page. To dynamically add a script tag, you need to create a new script element and append it to the target element. Okay, it says it turns out, let me go back to that. It says you have to use eval to execute any script code that you insert as DOM. Yeah, so maybe it's not an issue anymore. I would definitely go and read more about it, but it doesn't seem like the browser will execute code that just has script tags anymore. I don't know if anyone else in the stream actually knows and has more like knowledge about like vanilla JavaScript and security things related to vanilla JavaScript. Let that person know because I really don't know. But I thought this used to be a security vulnerability, but I guess they fixed it. Create element. Yeah, I think you actually have to like manually create the script tag and paste it in. So it might not be an issue, but there might be something else that's, I don't know. I can't answer that question to be honest with you. It seems safe. I would Google around just to make sure, but it seems like it should be fine. It seems like browsers don't allow you to just inject whatever scripts that you want with the inner HTML. Doodle dev, hey, do you think you can explain why this keyword in inner function is global scope while expecting it to be in the object it is? It's in. I'm not sure what you're asking. So like, so we have a function called do stuff, and we console log this.hello. Doodle dev is asking like, why is this actually global? Inner This in an inner function. I don't know. I think you have to give me like an example of like where you're seeing this issue. An inner function. So like you have a function that's inside of a function. Could you please explain HTML hydration error? I don't even know what that is. What is HTML hydration error? So he is saying, let's see, Deep Space says, how long have you been doing JavaScript and where are you from? I've been coding as a web developer since 2013, like professionally, and I'm living in Tennessee, United States. Peak says script itself got fixed with this, but there are still many other vulnerabilities with inner HTML. For example, if a chat message used inner HTML to inject the posted text, you could just inject the button saying pay here and redirect to your own site. Okay, so that is a really good example. Let me go back to that first example. Again, I don't really do a lot of like vanilla JavaScript at work, and I don't ever do inner HTML. I let React basically take care of all that stuff and abstract it away from me. That's why I'm kind of a noob when it comes to this. But basically, he's saying that like, I think I can do this. Oh wait, I think it's this. Okay, so yeah, that's okay. I understand why there's a huge security vulnerability with that. So he's saying that if someone were to be able to store some type of data in your database, or you're doing like some live chat and you're taking the text that comes back from your backend and just injecting it straight into your DOM, people can generate whatever HTML elements they want. They can't necessarily use a script tag, but they might be able to do like an on click here. Maybe this is like what I was thinking about. I think they can do an on click and say like, let me see if this actually does something. Wow. Okay, so that's the vulnerability. They can actually inject things onto your page, which when you click it, it runs some type of script. So you see here, we actually ran like hello. So they could do whatever they want here if they were able to get a button onto your page or a link onto your page that ran some code. Let me change this to a button and kind of show that, because the href kind of redirected us. So you could have people redirect to their sites if you wanted to, but right now, like, again, if you're just using inner HTML and like you just inject this button right into your page, someone can basically put whatever they want on your page, which is kind of bad. And not only that, but they could probably get really smart and write a script to find your login form and modify it so that when you come in and you like log in or you try to do something, instead of it sending that data to your actual backend, it's probably going to forward it to their like site to kind of track all these login information. So you can do it once you can run a script on your page and that script comes from an external location, like your whole site's just basically compromised. So definitely appreciate Peak for pointing that out. I don't really use that much vanilla JS, and I don't really think about security as much as I probably should. But yeah, this is definitely a huge issue. Steve is saying, I think he means functions and classes, etc. This works different in arrow functions. No need to bind. Yeah, it's like this is set to different things. Like this is if you're attaching a function to your on-click DOM element, this is going to be equal to, I think, the actual DOM element itself, or maybe the event. Let me try doing something. Function, do stuff, console log this. It's always good to just play around with doing stuff to try to learn. So this, if I click it, let me go to my terminal or my console. If I click it, do stuff is not defined. Okay, let me do this over here. I have a button over here that says click me, and we're gonna have an on click listener that says do stuff. What I'm just showing you is like this is set to like different stuff depending on the context of like where that function was declared. Why is do stuff not defined though? Maybe it's because I'm using like modules and stuff. All right, let's try this. Right now I'm just making myself look dumb, which is fine. Let's just put the do stuff here. Why is this saying it can't find it? It's probably because I'm using parcel. All right, so this is equal to the window itself. Okay. To be honest, I don't really have a solid understanding of this keyword. I probably should. I feel like I've gone and I read up on it and I've like learned how this works, and then you don't ever use it in your day job, so then you forget about how it works. So every time I come back to vanilla JavaScript, I'm like, dude, how does this work again? But when you're dealing with functions, so like if our classes, let's say you have like a person class and you have like a constructor, this keyword is going to actually refer to like the instantiated object of that, right? So if I do like a const Bob is equal to new person, the Bob object is actually going to have like a bunch of properties on it, I think. Let me run this. Yeah, so the person prints out with name and age. So this is actually referring to the object that was kind of instantiated when you did the new keyword. And it's not referring to the global. But if I did something different, let's say instead of a constructor or class, I said like function person, and then I said this name is equal to that and age is this. If you said like this, I think is actually going to change the global scope, right? Because this is actually referring to the object that this function is part of, I guess. Like if I print out this, I believe it'll have name or something. I don't know, man. I need to go read up on that. I really don't know how to explain this because I don't really know it myself. It just, I know that this context will change depending on, I think, where the function is declared or what the function is attached to, and I can't really explain it because I'm a noob. So let's see if there's any other questions before I log out. Let's see, data run me. Okay, Doodle Dev actually provided some script. Let's look at this real quick. Man, this really messed up this all right, am I missing a syntax? Let's see. I have a syntax error somewhere. If I squint hard enough, maybe I can find it. So this, okay, that's obviously, that was just for... What's going on here? There we go. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just trying to like get this code that... Okay, so I guess he's asking that this is bound in this function. It's bound to the object of t, right? So t, let me print out run me. Let me print out a and b. We can kind of like look at this. So t, I'm going to run that function. And okay, so a prints out, and that's the actual object of t. But b, is going to be, this is going to print out and be the window. And I think it's because when we declare this function here, here's the thing with this. I don't really know how to explain it, but I know how to fix it, right? I could make this a fat arrow. And then your this is going to be what you want it to be. Okay, I know how to fix it, but the explanation of why that happens, I guess it's because you declared the function. Let me try this as well. Let's see what happens if I do function hi, and I want to say console log C of this. Let's call hi and see what happens. All right, so this is also a global. This points to the global. So I guess this keyword by default will just point to the global when you declare a function. But if the function is attached to an object, then this keyword will actually point to the object that it's attached to. And if you wanted this function to be bound to the this that's in this, you basically have to use some type of fat arrow so that you, oops, kind of behind the scenes, I guess the syntactic sugar will bind this keyword to the function's this context that it's running in. Super confusing. JavaScript kind of sucks. I'm sure someone else could explain this much better than I did. But I think, yeah, if you just declare a function like this, I think by default it's just always going to have global scope unless you override it with a bind like this. So I don't know if I made you more confused or if I explained it. Let's see. It's inside the method and it's an arrow function to this keyword, and the arrow function is going to be the method's this keyword because yeah. So Peak is saying, by the way, I'm quite sure you could also inject a image into a inner HTML. This would allow to add an onload property with any JavaScript in it. So you basically have a script tag. Or you could now declare a variable in the method and name itself. Yeah, I'm going to go back to that security thing. I think I kind of understand what's going on. I think the idea is anytime you declare function, this is going to be pointing to the global. I could be wrong about that. But if you wanted to change what this is bound to, either use a fat arrow or you need to explicitly say bind, which will basically return you a new function that has a different context. Let's see if I can undo some of this stuff. I want to go back to the security thing because I do find that kind of interesting. I don't really think about this stuff too much. But instead of a button, if you injected an image and you give it an onload and it says alert, hello, the moment that this image loads, I think the alert thing will actually display into the page. Cannot set properties on null, setting image onload alert. Oh. So this is a div with the ID of text, like this. Maybe the image actually has to have like a real thing. Let's copy this image URL. Okay, that was too much. Let's find an image. Can I copy this without it being like copy to image address? How about that? Please don't be base 64 encoded. Dang it. I'm just trying to find like an image that doesn't have like kind of text on it because it's kind of like messing up what I'm trying to do. I'm sure Wiki has some type of image, right? No? I'll search for bird. Maybe there's like a bird image I can use. Here we go. Copy link as. Let's see if this works. Okay, there we go. That's all I was trying to do. On load, make a function called alert that says hello. Yeah. Except for it didn't display the second time. Maybe it's because it's loading from cache now or something. Or it's fail. Let's see. Image DOM on fail. Maybe there's like an on fail event you need to listen to. On error. Let's do on error instead and see what happens. Okay, yeah, so you could just give it an on error event, run whatever script that you want, and basically make the source probably be like null or blank or something. And it's going to try to load that image that doesn't exist, and it's going to run your script because there's no image there. So that's kind of like the really big security vulnerability. I think I've seen like Ben Awad make a video about this as well and explain it. So it's kind of cool to understand and mess around with. But yeah, inner HTML is really dangerous. If you don't know exactly where that content's coming from, or this is user created content, you probably never want to use that and put it in inner HTML. Use an unsplash image. Yeah, I probably should have. I wasted too much time trying to find an image. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this stream up. If you guys enjoyed watching this, make sure you remember to click the thumbs up icon. It helps my videos get out there and be exposed, I guess. At least that's what they tell me to say. Leave a comment below if you enjoyed watching this. And also, if you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe if you like this content and you want to see more of this content in the future. I hope I kind of helped you all out and answered some of your questions. A lot of questions this stream, so I definitely appreciate you all being active and asking some stuff. Yeah, maybe we can do this again next week. And if you have more questions, be sure to think about them for next Saturday. Cool. Happy coding, and thank you so much for watching, y'all. Let me go ahead and end this stream.